Someone else's success is not your failure. Celebrate others' successes because it's just not your story right now. I truly think that one of the hardest challenges we face is overcoming envy, especially in times of our own disappointments. To be able to look at someone else who has what we want and not covet it is truly a test of strength. The thing is, success isn't finite. It's not as if there is a certain amount of success out there, and if they have it, well, shoot, I guess I'm out of luck. There is plenty of success to go around. The problem, of course, comes when they have what you want, but you don't yet. It's not a coin toss. It's not like if their side is up, you're stuck face down until they're down. And you can certainly both be facing up. But maybe it's just not your story right now. And just because they are succeeding in their story right now, it doesn't mean that you're failing in yours. You just haven't reached that point yet. The strongest women are the ones who can look at another woman succeeding and say, bravo, job well done. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I truly am happy for your success. Because by feeling those things, it doesn't in any way negate your opportunities for success. In fact, by acknowledging their success, you are also acknowledging that, yes, it is possible. If it is possible for her to succeed, it is possible for you to succeed. It doesn't make you any stronger if she fails, but it makes you stronger if you can see her success, acknowledge it, and learn from it. The only thing that stands in the way of this is our ego. Our ego that looks at her success and sees it as our failure. Our ego that sees us as inferior because we didn't succeed or we haven't succeeded yet. Little kids, they're not like that. I remember when my oldest was in kindergarten and he wasn't reading yet. I, of course, was fixated on why wasn't he reading yet when other kids are. I remember one particular day when he came home and told me that his friend Davis had read a book to the class. Of course, my reaction in my head was, ugh, why is Davis reading a book to the class and you can't? Of course, I didn't say that to him, duh, but I totally had somewhat of a similar reaction of envy in my head. And then his next sentence was, isn't that so exciting? He did so good. And the huge smile and excitement on his face, it was pure and it was genuine. He was so happy for his friend. And I immediately felt ashamed for feeling that flutter of envy. That's the reaction we all should have. He didn't see his friend's success as his failure in any way. Just because his friend read, it didn't mean that he wouldn't. It just wasn't his story right then. He celebrated someone else's joy, someone else's success. And eventually he read too, and it wasn't any less exciting or special, and he isn't any less successful of a reader because he celebrated someone else getting there first. We aren't born with this envy. Our ego feeds off of it as we get older. So today, can you see that someone else's success is not your failure? Celebrate their successes because it's just not your story right now. Hey guys, it's Jen. In the 10th grade, I was on my high school's dance team. We were the honeybees. Cute, right? Well, it got significantly less cute when I tried out in the 11th grade and I didn't make it. Devastating, heartbreaking, the worst pain ever. Or so I thought. That was until my lifelong soccer playing son, who was so very dedicated and so very hardworking, and objectively a really good soccer player, for whatever reasons, okay, I mean, it's been like over 2 years. He's a million times happier now. But honestly, I'm still kind of too bitter to objectively discuss the reasons. Well, for whatever reason, he didn't make his high school's soccer team. That that was 100 times more devastating and heartbreaking and painful to me than not making honeybees ever was. And I still can't hear Phil Collins sing, I can't dance, I can't sing, without feeling sad. Coincidentally, if you Google when that song was top of the charts, that is exactly when I was rejected, which was really kicking me while I was down. Anyway, seeing his world seemingly collapsing on him was so much worse. And then trying to navigate him out of that hole of despair. Well, they didn't prepare me for that in any of those what to expect books. Along related lines, I remember the Mean Girls in middle school and in high school, an absolute outcast. Like I just didn't fit. You know, funnily enough, I'm not sure that I didn't fit or that I didn't have friends. But back then, it sure didn't feel like I did. I remember thinking I was friends with people and then being left out or brushed aside by the self-appointed queen bees, which, yes, we were the bees, and I referenced the honeybees, but that's purely coincidental. I mean, queen bee as in the mean girl heads of the quote unquote popular girls, which is like the word that most makes my skin crawl as an adult. Popular. What does that even mean? It drives me nuts when my kids use that word. I remember how awful it felt inside to be left out, but it paled in comparison to watching my daughter get mean girled out of her own friend group in middle school. As the self-appointed queen bee, who had ironically been her very best friend since pre-K, so like 8 effing years at that point, they had a whole group. Their squad is what they called it. And then one day, said mean girl, well, she just decided that she and my daughter weren't friends anymore. And she took the squad with her. To this day, I'm pretty sure the rest of the girls have no idea why they're not friends with her anymore. They just followed as middle school girls do. So just like that, pushed aside. Dealing with mean girls to my baby, well, that has been a million times more painful than dealing with mean girls to myself ever was. Thankfully, I haven't had to deal with romantic heartbreak too much yet because we're still in our first real relationships. But I know how awful that was for me, and I can only imagine how hard it will be to comfort a heartbroken teen. Although really, I mean, heartbreak is heartbreak, and none of it is easy to experience as a teen or both feel and console as a parent. So today, we're going to have a conversation about navigating heartbreak and disappointment and failure in our teens and the subsequent heartbreak and disappointment that we feel as their moms. Whether they don't make a sports team or they get rejected by a college or they get their heart broken by a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a friend, our hearts break to watch them suffer. And then we still need to help them work through it, right? But how? How do we even do that? Our first instinct is to try to make everything better. We want to fix it. We want to stop the hurt for them. We want to march up to that coach or email the admissions office, text the boy who broke her heart, call the mean girl's mom, fight their battle, make the heartbreak go away. Unfortunately, and you are going to need to trust me on this one, it doesn't ever work, like ever. In fact, it often makes the situation even worse, and the initial disappointment doesn't even go away. And life is full of heartaches. Growing up is full of disappointments. We can't fix everything, and we can't shield them from the world. So we need to teach them how to deal with disappointment. And yes, this is definitely one of the lesser fun parts of being mom. So let's first talk in general. When they have their hearts broken or are hurt or are disappointed, the three main points to remember are listen, validate, and just be there. Covers pretty much all circumstances. First, listen. Hear what they have to say. They are upset, disappointed, angry, embarrassed. Let them vent, scream, cry, whatever they need to do, and just listen. Don't try to fix it. Don't jump in to make them feel better. Don't speak first. And definitely do not tell them it doesn't matter or isn't a big deal or you'll forget about him or she wasn't good enough for you anyway or any of the other belittling platitudes that we, for the most part, intend to try to make them feel better. Again, this too never works, like ever. We may mean them as a way to minimize their sadness or rationalize the pain away, but instead, all we do is end up making them feel alone, feel trivialized in their feelings, and like you just don't understand. So instead, just listen. Second, validate them. When you do speak, validate their feelings. This is a big deal. Whatever it is, even if it isn't a big deal to you, to them, it's a big deal. Even if in the long term, it's for the best. Right now, it really sucks. Let them wallow, let them vent, let them feel exactly how they feel, and let them know it's okay to feel whatever version of shitty they feel. I know that this sucks. I know you are so disappointed. I know how hard you tried. I know how much you wanted to get in. I know how much you cared about her and how sad it is when a relationship ends. Resist the urge to minimize their emotions. Third, be there for them. We feel like as they get older, they need us for less and less. But this is when they need us more than ever. Even if they seem like maybe they're pushing us away, know that is their sadness or their embarrassment talking. They may feel angry at the coach or their former friend or their ex or the college or the driving instructor or the world. And yes, they may take some of that anger out on you. Remember our lessons in the Manifest That Shit episode? This is the perfect opportunity to use those skills you developed from listening to that show. And if you haven't, go back and listen. It's a good one. Don't take it personally. Be patient. While I am never one to advocate taking shit from people, and definitely not from my kids, cut them a little bit of slack here. Think about when you have been hurt. Do you ever lash out? Or see your pain sneak out in some unintended ways? Of course you do. We all do. And who typically bears the brunt of it? Those who we are closest with. So if they do lash out at you, just let it go for the time being, at least. React calmly. You can go back and address it later, but yelling back or reacting isn't going to make anything better, and it is only going to escalate things. Once they've calmed down, and you can and should totally revisit with I know you are really upset, but you need to not talk to me or anyone that way. You also need to reinforce that you're there for them, even at their worst. And I know you feel so alone, but you are never alone. It goes a long way. And mean that. Depending on the disappointment, it will take time to get over the hurt. Make sure, though, that they realize this and then continue to be there to listen. Teenagers are full of big feelings to begin with, right? They are literal balls of hormones and emotions. So when coupled with a disappointment, it can create the perfect storm. And just like it was our job to manage their emotions at preschool drop off or stop the tears when they fell at the playground, it's our job to manage their emotions and stop the tears now. Only sadly, this time magic kisses, they don't have the same power like they once did. So let's have a bit of a conversation here about the three primary types of hurt that our teens face. Interpersonal relationships, so like romantic breakups or friendship issues, rejection. So sports team rejections, college rejections, not getting the lead in the play, not winning the student council election, romantic rejection, and failures. So things like failing exams or failing driver's license testings, low SAT or ACT scores. They're all different situations, but they all hurt their sweet little hearts the same. And by proxy, they crush ours. And no, we are not talking about codependent relationships here, okay? Where we take their pain and we make it our own. I'm talking feeling empathy because we know that pain and we've experienced that pain. And to think of them suffering it, well, that's a whole different level of hurt. Now, the interesting thing is, though, when they're hurting, it is so much more helpful to show your teens compassion than it is to show them empathy. So, what's the difference between empathy and compassion? Empathy is being aware of and vicariously experiencing their feelings. Empathy lets us identify with the problem or with the feeling, which as parents is super beneficial for us to draw on at various times, to remember back what it was like, to know what something feels like, whatever. And because of that, when we see our kids in similar situations, it can bring up those same feelings all over again. And the next thing we know, we are projecting these feelings onto them. All of a sudden, this isn't their issue anymore. Now we've made it ours. And often they may even start to downplay their actual emotions because it's upsetting us. So instead, it's better to try to use compassion. Compassion is being willing to bear witness to their feelings. We don't need to identify with the problem. We just need to witness whatever it is that they're going through. So, to go back, what is the difference? With both compassion and with empathy, we're sharing in the emotional experience with them. But the difference is that compassion, it adds in our desire to alleviate their pain. With empathy, we're feeling it with them, which can be a lot for them to manage. It can also add to the burden and keep them amped up about the problem as you kind of feed off of each other, right? It's like they're upset and then we're attaching our feelings and we're getting more upset and they're getting more upset. And it's just feeding the problem. When you instead use compassion, you're not adding that extra weight to their shoulders. You're not throwing any more fuel on the fire. Instead, you are recognizing the pain that they are in and showing them that you are there to hold it and witness it with them. You aren't solving their problem, but you are giving comfort to them. I know it is so tempting to try to relate our experiences to theirs. It seems like a good idea, right? I mean, it seems so logical. I know that I for sure have done this many times, probably with all of my kids, but I know 100% with my daughter. I know what it is like because here's what happened to me. Making it about me instead of about them. Adding my pain and my burden onto her already hurting heart. We can't do that to them. Instead of trying to identify with the problem or match their anger or their sadness, instead, we be by their side as a compassionate witness to help them move forward. And when they get their hearts broken by the best friend that she trusted, or the girl who he thought loved him, or the boy who made all sorts of promises, rather than tell them about the boy who broke your heart and how you know how they feel, but here he is on Facebook now, and I really dodged a bullet on that one. Or instead of joining in his anger at the coach by projecting your 30-year-old anger at the honeybee's coach who cut you, all of these things only add to their hurt because now they are thinking about you, you, the mom who they love. Now they're thinking about you suffering as a kid too. And you're also making their issue your issue. It's their story. Let them have it. Let them have their moment of sadness. And instead, just be there with them. Share in their hurt. Let them know that you are by their side. So whoever or whatever breaks our kids' hearts, unfortunately, as much as we want to be mama bear, protective, and go all country music song and take a baseball bat to his car, or Tanya Harding her, or tell the world what trash he is, those aren't really viable options. So there's really not much that we can do. All we have left is our compassion and comfort. What we say to them is what can help them get through the tough times. Yeah, I know that's not a lot of pressure on you or anything. Nah, not at all. So in preparation for the inevitable heartache your teens will face, here are some things that you can say to them. First, start with, I'm so sorry, because you are. Not that you did anything, because obviously it's not your fault. And yes, they will probably point that out to you. I know my kids always do. But it's not an I'm sorry in the apology way. It's an I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I'm so sorry that you are going through this because I'm by your side and whatever hurts your heart hurts mine too. Because what and who matters to you matters to me. That's why you're so sorry. Second, ask them what they need. What do you need from me right now? Do you want me to hold you? Do you want me to listen? Do you want me to show you why Jagged Little Pill was the best and most angsty album ever? I mean, I cannot be the only person who I can be in like the greatest mood and still feel rage out of nowhere when I hear You Oughta Know, right? Do you want to vent? Do you want to go take your anger on the punching bag in the garage with me? If, they're away at college, do you want me to send you your favorite, whatever it is? Do you want me to come get you? They may not need or want you to do anything, but the offer itself can even provide them with comfort. Third, tell them that they won't feel like this forever. Now, that doesn't mean dismiss how they are feeling now or make them feel like they need to snap out of it. Because yes, they absolutely need to spend time in their feelings of hurt or of anger or of sadness or bitterness, but they also need to be reminded and assured that they won't always feel this way. They will feel better. Similarly, the fourth one, tell them that something good will come out of this. Again, it is 100% okay if that seems completely impossible right at this particular moment. But promise them that it will become clear at some point that this will work out in the long run. And as heartbreaking as it is right now, you will be okay and something good will take its place. And fifth, tell them that you love them. Remind them that you are there for them no matter what. Does it fix anything? Nope. Have you told them this a million times before? Of course you have. But it is still important for them to hear when their heart is hurting. Like 100% important for them to hear. Similarly, like interpersonal heartbreak, rejection, failure, and losing are disappointments that our teens are facing so often. Whether it's getting rejected from their dream college, cut from a sports team, losing the student council election, failing a course exam, or heaven forbid, their driver's exam. Although, okay, side note. So in the state of North Carolina, no one has taken an actual driving test since before COVID. That's insane, right? I mean, is it like that where you live too? Like when you are near a high school parking lot in North Carolina, watch out. Not one single teen driver in that lot has had to take anything beyond the initial 25, whatever point, get your permit at turning 15 exam. It's really horrifying if you think about it. And this is one that sadly I can relate to because let's go back to April of 1992. 1992, that would have been like the same year as honeybees. Wow, that was a really tough year. April of 1992. And you still needed to take a driving test. Parallel parking and all in the state of Ohio. And alas, I hit a damn orange cone while trying to parallel park. I didn't even knock it over. I just bumped into it. Ugh, I was devastated. Yes, long term, it didn't matter. And as an aside, after living on 15th in Columbus all during college at Ohio State, I can parallel park with the absolute best of them. Like I'm a champ. And really, even short term, it didn't matter. I think I went back and passed within like a week or two. But funnily enough, I have zero memory of getting my driver's license, but I have a vivid memory of failing. And it felt like the world was ending. I was a complete and utter failure. Another failure that I have a total memory of is this one C, the only C I ever received in a class in my entire life. And I recount this story to my kids so often. Freshman year in college, I had an 8 a.m. astronomy class. Clearly, I never signed up for an 8 a.m. again, and I will never, nor have I ever taught an 8 a.m. Although God bless my colleagues who, for whatever, choose to do this. Well, I thought, oh, I love looking at stars, constellations, planets, so much fun. Well, clearly I had no idea that physics was involved and God only knows what else because I obviously didn't understand a damn thing because I ended up with a C. My first and only, I'd like to reiterate. I'm not judging grades. My husband was the type of students who was thrilled to get C's and lived by the C's get degrees motto. I was absolutely not that. And seeing that, I can remember clearly crying hysterically at my very first college report card, looking at that C, which to me may as well been a big fat F written in, red marker scrawled across it because all I saw was a total failure. I told my parents that I might as well drop out of school now because clearly I will never amount to anything in life. Yes, slightly dramatic and teenage angsty. Again, I would probably trace that back and cue the Alanis Morissette. I know, and in hindsight, knowing that I turned out just fine, it's funny, but I remember that feeling of failure, like my future being ripped out from under me. Similar to driving, I know that I got a 32 on my ACT. My husband, who doesn't typically remember any of our birth dates when he's filling out forms, even he, if you asked him, would know that I got a 32 on my ACT because apparently, according to him, I find a way to work it into many conversations. I mean, that was a really good score, right? Anyway, despite the longevity of pride that score has brought me, I don't actually remember the moment that I got that score. But like the driving test, I remembered the moment of my failure of my C in astronomy. All right, sorry, I have digressed. But let's go back. Our teens face so many setbacks and failures like these. And to us as parents, we would look at either of these quote unquote failures of mine and think, oh, for heaven's sake, get yourself together. This is not a big deal at all. But it was to me. And it is to our kids when things like this happen. The reality is that failure is a part of life. And just like it is our job to teach them to tie their shoes and say their ABCs, it's also our job to teach them how to handle failure. It's not a fun job either, but any means. I mean, there aren't any cute little songs or bunny ear methods or cartoon characters to help us with it, but it's still our job. And it's one of those things that we just assume they should realize. And then we're often dismissive of their frustrations because we haven't taught them how to do it. It's a lot easier to celebrate the joy of making the team or getting into their first choice college or passing the test than it is to properly guide them through managing the failure. When teens fail at something, they have obviously set a goal for themselves and work towards achieving that goal. So when they fail, they feel sad and inferior because they couldn't achieve it. They've waited 16 years to get that license, probably a good decade or so that they actually looked ahead longingly at being a grown-up kid with a license and being able to drive wherever they want. My daughter plans to go to my parents' house and Starbucks. Lofty dreams, I know, considering we are lucky enough to have my parents nearby, so we see them regularly. And well, Starbucks, we get just about every day, but to her, it's the independence of the choice. That's what she's looking forward to. The actual license has such a buildup and represents so much to them. And if they fail at that, or their SAT, or their ACT goal, have I ever mentioned that I got a 32 on my ACT? Or anyway, if they fail to win the championship game, God, I'm still living off of that. What is this, like over 30 years later? If they fail to like win a championship game or a match that they've been training for, or if they fail their black belt test or whatever the failure is, they feel inferior because they see it as their inability to accomplish something because of their lack of their skill. And that means that they are lacking something in their being. They are inferior. They personalize it. I don't know about you, but I know 100% that I do this too. And I know that's not good. And I know that's not good to model for my kids. I know. So what do? I bottle that shit up and try not to appear like I feel like a low number of downloads on a particular episode or on a particular day. I try to not look like I'm taking it personal, or that people don't like my posts or my videos isn't a personal failure. But no, I am not good at failure because I personalize it. And I know that has prevented me from trying so very many things over the years. I realize that I often avoid doing things that I either know or may even suspect I could fail at because it makes me feel horribly inferior. Because yes, I know I totally personalize it. As parents, though, we need to teach our teens that failure is an option. It's okay to fail. We don't need to be perfect all of the time. Failure is actually a neutral experience. It's only become so negative when we don't use it as an opportunity to grow. What's more important long-term than that one thing is the long-term moral framework, the persistence, and the work ethic, and to just keep going. I know all the way from pre-K all the way up through middle school, I have been of the mindset with my kids that grades are unimportant to me. In high school, grades themselves will be plenty important, and there's no reason to start that sooner. But that doesn't mean I don't care. What I care about until that point has been the value of hard work and focus and education. It's like I care about establishing their work ethic, their study habits. I want them to learn to prioritize school and enjoy learning for the sake of learning, not for the grade. I want them to worry about doing their best and giving it their best effort. And I know I've had enough years in education to know that if they do those things, the grades will come. So far, I am 2 for 2 on that one now that I've reached high school. So let's keep our fingers crossed on number 3, but I will keep you posted next year. When they do fail at something they try, we need to teach our kids that there is a detachment between their value as people and their success in that particular area. Part of that can come from helping them to put it into a perspective. Instead of the one bad grade on their report card, look at all the other good grades you have. It was devastating to you to miss that winning score, but you played wonderfully the other 98% of the game. And I know if I were to say that one, I 100% know the response I would get. That doesn't matter if I can't make the other winning 2%. And he'd be right to some degree, which is what makes failure so hard to handle. But because we are adults who have the benefit of experience on our side, we can appreciate that these failures, they help us learn. Our kids have limited life experience, remember, so the failure seems monumental. Hitting that cone on the stupid driver's test has made me a million times more cognizant of quite literally every single parallel parking experience that I have had in the last 30 years, for fuck's sake. Could I have told my 16-year-old hysterical self that? Sure, but would I have listened? Absolutely not. But the reality is, it's the experience of time and growth that will teach that. It's our job as parents to plant those seeds for them, to emphasize that everyone fails sometimes. Even the most successful people have failed. I mean, I know that I live in the Michael Jordan capital of the world. I mean, literally, he's from Wilmington. But I know that parents everywhere have pulled out the old Michael Jordan was cut from his freshman basketball team or whatever team he was cut from story. I mean, for all I know, it was his Pee Wee League Halo Hoops team. I have no idea. But I know that I have pulled that story out a few times. People fail. It happens. It sucks. It hurts, but it happens. It's a part of life, and you just need to learn from it and move on. See what you learned from the experience. Maybe it's empathy for failure. If you hadn't failed that exam or missed that goal or been rejected from that college or been given the understudy role instead of the lead or been cut from the team, you would have no way of knowing so many things. You wouldn't be able to have empathy for those around you who fail at something. It made it so much harder for me to see my son cut from soccer because I knew how he felt. Being cut from honeybees still hurts my heart to this day, but it gave me the empathy to relate to his hurt. And feeling like a total failure for that C in astronomy has made me a much better and more empathetic professor all of these years later, because I know what it feels like to be a student who actually cares about her grade and to see that grade as a personal failure. Failure is also a way to learn, both learn how we can improve and learn what our path actually is. People who succeed are the people who stick at things and refuse to give up. Obviously, Michael Jordan used his failure on his freshman basketball team as an opportunity to learn how to be better at basketball, to be what his team and what his coach needed him to be, to be arguably one of the greatest of all time. Sorry, I'm Team LeBron all the way. I know this is a very sore subject in the basketball heavy state of North Carolina, and I have quite frequently gotten this topic as a persuasive speech topic, to which I have had to say to them, really? Read the room. You've known me all semester. Anyway, for my son, not making his soccer team was arguably the best thing that could have ever happened to him and to his future. But that was because he used it as an opportunity for growth, not like MJ did with his soccer skills, but rather he used it to see what he was actually meant to do. Yes, he was sad. He was devastated, but he didn't wallow in it. He got back up, dusted himself off, and refocused. I said to him, "How about football?" I saw online then that football tryouts were literally ending that day. So I called my husband. He came home immediately and we loaded a very unsure 14-year-old soccer player into the car, and he drove him to the school where he found the coach and walked by us right up to him and promptly left him there, despite his pleading eyes and pleading subsequent texts to take him home. We told him, just try and see. To his huge credit, that child, mind you, this was 2021. So he was a COVID online freshman that year in high school. So he knew no one, but he stayed. And fast forward, junior year, he was first team all-county punter. Going here into his senior year, he is the starting varsity kicker and punter. He is looking at colleges with the hopes of playing in college. Who'd have thought? Just because he didn't make soccer. Will that happen? Who knows at this point? But he does know that if it doesn't, and if he fails, he absolutely can and will bounce back from it because he's seen that he has done it before and he can do it again. If we let our kids be afraid of failure, they can become afraid to try new things. And especially at this point in their lives, they will miss out on valuable new experiences. As parents, there's not much that we can do to prevent our kids from failing because, as we all know, failure is a part of life. It's a sucky part of life, but a part of life nonetheless. Our knee-jerk reaction is, of course, to shield them from failure as much as we can. But if we do that, we're not preparing them for life, which is our job after all. Failing at things helps them to develop the resilience and the persistence that they need to thrive as an adult. So we need to let them fail. But failure alone doesn't teach them. We need to be there with them through it. First, we need to talk about the failure with them. For most of us, we would rather just gloss over the hurt. Reassure them that they'll get it next time, place blame on someone other than them, the teacher, the coach, the admissions office, the bitter driver's ed teacher. But that doesn't help. They need to figure out what went wrong. How can they do things differently in the future? To do this, you will need, as their parent, to follow 3 steps. First step, remember when I said how my students should read the room on their persuasive topic? Well, we need to do the same. Read the room and don't try to have this conversation when they don't seem like they're open to talking. Find a time when they seem particularly chatty, or at least as chatty as a teenager is going to be, and use that. Then you need to talk to the emotional part of their brain, the part that is sad and heartbroken and discouraged. This is when you go back to what I said, validate their feelings. Let them know how it's okay for them to feel frustrated or sad or insecure or inferior or discouraged. It's okay. As I say so very often, don't belittle their feelings. Don't tell them it's not a big deal in any way, shape, or form. Be on their side. And then once you've done that, you can talk to the logical part of their brain. That's when you can guide them through dissecting what went wrong. How can they improve or learn from this? Where can they go from here? Do you take a year to go to community college and apply again next year? Do you join a rec league and work on your skills for next year's tryouts? Do you just check it and say, I don't want to do this anymore, and use it as an opportunity to try something new? Help them to make a plan and be sure that that plan absolutely doesn't involve giving up. In addition to talking about the failure with them, we also need to recognize that their effort does matter. No, we're not giving them a trophy for showing up. And if we were, so what? That is an issue that makes me crazy. There is absolutely nothing wrong with recognizing effort. Success should absolutely be celebrated, but a win or nothing mentality? No. We do need to teach them the value of effort as well as the value of the achievement. But if achievement is all that is celebrated, that's when we inadvertently teach them that they should only do things that they're really good at or are really easy for them. We want them to push themselves out of their comfort zone. We want them to try new things. We want them to take on challenges. They're not going to do any of that if their effort is unnoticed and unappreciated. So help them to focus on, yes, on achievement, but also on the value of perseverance. I mean, research shows that the key characteristic of success, it's not IQ or talent. You know what it is, right? Sticking at things, even when they are hard or challenging or frustrating. There is such a validity to the concept of a growth mindset over a fixed mindset. A growth mindset sees your abilities as something that you can develop through effort and through our failures. The failures are just opportunities for growth. On the other hand, if we have that fixed mindset, well, that assumes that, oh, well, we are born with it or not. Your intelligence and talent are fixed and we can't change it. We 100% can. Encourage this in your teens by celebrating their effort and praising the process. I'm so proud of how far you've come already. How can you get the rest of the way? And what can I do to help you? Celebrate all of the little wins along the way. Well, okay, so we're to the hard part, at least the hard part for me. I can totally talk to them about it, and I can absolutely celebrate the effort. Where I need to push myself is in being a role model. I have said already that I don't do well with failure. Historically, my default is to only push myself as far as I know I can be successful. I am not afraid to admit that I am afraid to fail. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to feel judged, even if the only person actually judging me is me. But you know what? I exercise every day because I want to model good fitness behavior. I eat healthy because I want to model good nutrition. I treat people with kindness and compassion because I want to be a good role model for my kids. I work hard to model a good work ethic. I mean, come on, isn't that enough already? What more do you want from me? Ugh, fine. Okay, yes, I do model this behavior too. I try to force myself to do things that I may not be very good at, that, yes, I may even fail at. I mean, I went skiing in the damn Alps as my first attempt just to show them it's okay to fall down as you're trying to even put your first ski on. And then as you're trying to put your second ski on, and then get stuck in the middle of the baby hill. But I tried. I should share the favorite picture of our trip to Switzerland that my son took a selfie of him where in the background, he made sure to get me on the ground trying to get up with the instructor. But I tried, right? Am I a good skier? Hell no. Have I gone since with them? Yes, I have. Am I super brave? No, but I show up and try. I started this podcast on a whim because I wanted to help people and maybe help myself along the way. Have I ever done something like this? No. Do I enjoy putting myself out there to potentially be judged, criticized, show my vulnerabilities, and yes, perhaps even fail? Dear God, no. While the content of this podcast is 100% me, from the family comm to the teaching to the meditation and Zen, all of it, it's like totally me. But it is 200% not me in terms of exposure and putting myself out there. But I'm doing it. Could I fail? Of course I could. I mean, I'm not going to because I have already manifested my great ever growing success. And on a side note, if you'd like to know more about that, go listen to the Manifestation Jen is Zen episode and the Manifest That Shit episodes. But most importantly, I like to think that I am teaching them to take that leap, even if they don't know where or if they'll land successfully. So you need to do it too. If I'm doing it, you need to do it. Be a role model for them. Show them that failure is okay and that they should always keep trying. And teach them how to differentiate between their value as an individual and their successes or failures. And probably most important for us to model to them, show them that you don't see someone else's success as your failure. Celebrate others' successes. Teach them that it's just not our story right now. Our time will come, and it won't come any faster if we're envious of others. Thank you so much for listening and for spending this time with me today. Please remember to follow the show so you don't miss out on any new content. Follow me on socials on TikTok and Instagram at Reframing Me. And on Facebook, it's Reframing Me. And join the Facebook group Reframing Me, the podcast community. And when you see my posts on all these places, please like them because I do need the validation. You can email me with questions or issues or ideas that you'd like me to cover in future episodes. It's Jen at reframing-me.com. Until next time, be well, communicate, and celebrate everyone's successes.